Okay, well, I'm very excited to speak to you guys. Most of you know I'm an engineer, so having like a wireless remote and being inspired by Jim's charts and triangles and tables, this is just awesome. I did realize though that I've still got a lot more to learn from Tim, because he talked about credibility, and I just, that didn't seem to make much sense in a spreadsheet world that I live. So I probably would have reshaped my speech a little bit and not used an infomercial structure. So I'll try to do the best I can. But make no mistake, my intent today is to try to recruit all the problem solvers in this room. Let's try to get you guys to take action and to be part of the solutions that we need to be making out there. So the bottom line is, and you heard the theme from Thad, we're resource managers. So we've got trade-offs. Water is one of our limited resources, and we've got to help decide how to use that the best we can, and we've got to help decide how to prioritize that. And we touch lots of other folks that are going to be part of those decisions, but it's up to us at a local level to try to come up with the best possible that we can do with that limited resource. So, traditionally, in my world anyway, that meant I was dealing with flood control, water supply, drainage. Under the California Rice Commission's amazing leadership now, we all have kind of adopted the waterfowl. Shorebirds through partners with Audubon and TNC and others. That's become part of our way of life as well. What I want to talk to you about today is kind of some of the success that we've had with taking that to fish and seeing what we can do with fish. Fish has a big impact on our water resource, and I think we've always thought of that as a us or them scenario, but it's not. It's how do we help solve that problem in a better way than it's being solved right now, and if we don't, it's going to have real consequences for us. So that's my hope. I guess I should have grabbed this. So a couple of years ago, under NACWA's leadership, they hired Dave Vogel, and they came up with a salmon recovery plan. Over the last couple of years, we've had some success with that program. There's a lot more than just temperature for fish. We've got to get them up out of the gravel. We've got to have good temperature, but then they've got to survive the rest of the route. So this project that's behind me is one that Glen Close Irrigation District took on. This is a side channel where fish spawn, and it had just become cut off from the Sacramento River. And so that project had been out there, but it didn't have a champion. It didn't have somebody to go take the leadership role in that project and get it done. GCID did that. They did that 2 years ago, and it's kind of an exciting slide. Oh, sorry, this is an older version, but there's a slide, a photo that shows the reds that actually spawned this year from the work that they did 2 years ago. Folks are using that side channel. So this is a project that our district took on last year. Certainly lots of partners involved with the project, but this is a project. Interesting enough, we were cleaning folders. I received a report from 1991 that actually talked about this as a problem. So it took us 25 years. I'm going to pretend like we just picked it up last year. But this project, it's a location near Knight's Landing, the adult salmon moving up the Sacramento River. Most of the drainage from the west side of the valley comes back into the river at this location. It's a big attractant for adult salmon on their way up to spawn. So we worked with biologists, we worked with the agencies, we came up with a solution, and we got it done. In large part, there was a lot of permitting assistance and attention brought to this, but it's a $2.5 million project. We know we had straying salmon that we were losing here on their way up to spawn after they had made it all the way through the full life stage. They'd made it out of the gravel. They'd made the gauntlet down the Sacramento River in the Delta, spent years out at sea, and on their way back, they weren't making it. So we were able to step in and change populations by having projects like this. So this is a slide that I just put up there. This is actually about a 10-page document, and I deleted all the data, but it is hard to lead a project like this. It takes commitment from folks like yourself to get through these permitting processes. And all of these things are needed. And as part of a project, you have to go through these processes as part of a project. But it takes somebody to step in and lead each one of the elements for this project, and it's not easy. And so what we're asking for is a commitment that's a substantial commitment from folks. So this is a project that's actually happening this year. It's actually happening right now. It's called the Market Street Bridge Project. Again, GCID has taken this project on. They've changed the oil out in their equipment and put vegetable oil in their equipment, and they're creating another location where salmon will be able to spawn in the upper reach of the Sacramento River. That should be completed hopefully next year. Well, hopefully actually he gets flooded out and he won't be able to complete it, and he'll have to come back in a few weeks. But so, and then this is an example, another example, fish that stray up the Yolo bypass. They get confused at the lower end of the bypass where the Sacramento River and the Yolo bypass are right next to each other. Those adults, it's a tidal area, so there's huge flows flowing in and out of the Sacramento River in that location. Salmon tend to accidentally stray up the Yolo bypass. When they get to the top of the Yolo bypass, they can't get back into the river. So this is location is called Wallace Weir. But what we're doing essentially is creating a fish barrier so the fish don't continue up farm drains, and then a rescue facility. So the adult salmon that show up at that location on their way up to spawn will actually be picked up and put back into the Sacramento River. When fish are migrating, they have a small capture facility that works at very low flows right now. When fish are migrating, they can capture 50 spawning salmon a day at this location. So this will be completed this year, and that particular issue will be off the table. We'll have more fish coming up and spawning. So certainly, as Bryce said, we should all jump on board and find a way to help. You don't have to necessarily build sites at $4 billion. There are smaller projects out there that you can help with. And I'd like to run through what we've put together for this year, because this year is, you've heard folks say that we've lost two classes or 2 years of winter run salmon. Well, that means that our urgency for this next year is much higher. So we actually have put together what we're calling a 2016 action plan. And so what that does is it says we're going to take care of temperature, we're going to improve monitoring. And so we've taken a look at the monitoring for survival that come up with these 5% numbers. We think there's ways that you can reduce the uncertainty with those. We think we need to do that. We need to get that to happen now. We also think that, there's a lot of things that happen in these high temperature years. Well, high temperature years are years where you don't have a lot of water, right? So you don't have a lot of flow. There's a lot of other things that are occurring in these high temperature years. So one thing that our biologist has seen is that the quality of the gravel in the upper Sacramento River hasn't been exposed to these flushing flows. So what's that mean? That means the gravel is covered with moss. It means it has much higher pathogen problems. We need to figure out ways to deal with that. Projects like Market Street Bridge and Painter's Riffle help introduce healthy gravel as part of that, but we can do more. So when those fish come out of the gravel, there's projects that need to be done that need leadership from folks like you that produce complexity in the river channel, refuge for those fish. When they come out, right now we have a dam that blocks, all the boulders and rocks and everything that used to come down the river. And over the years, we've just kind of cleaned it out with flows during high flow events. So now our channel below Shasta Reservoir, it's not very complex. So as fish come out of the gravel, they don't have a lot of refuge. They don't have a lot of places to hide from salmon. So we have a private landowner with River Garden Farms that's dedicating some of their revenue to go up and try to lead a project to add refugia in the channel. There's a whole group of projects that sometimes are referred to as the John Hannon projects, where we've had side channels like Painter's Riffle that have been cut off that need leaders to pursue those projects. Open up those side channels so that salmon, when they come out of the gravel and they start to work their way down the river, they have places to get off the channel, to get fat and to rest and be more successful on their way out and avoid predation. So. The other thing that we've asked for in this action plan is that the agencies prioritize this. National Marine Fisheries Service has a brochure out now and kind of a plan that they have. It's called Salmon in the Spotlight, and one of the species they highlight right now is winter run salmon. So the state has actually created an eco-restore program where they prioritize permitting. And we think that the feds need to be doing something very similar, and that the salmon in the spotlight could help do that. And if you can get the spotlight on the permitting, you can help advance these projects quickly in a year like this year where we need it to be there. We need a change this year to improve survival of salmon, because we'll do everything we can on temperature, but whatever gets out of the gravel, we darn sure need to make sure that those fish survive. But about 70% of the mortality for salmon is just baseline. It's just background. It's all those other things other than temperature. So we need to work on those things. I'd like to recruit all of you to approach David and myself or Thad to talk to your boards. We need things like, just advocates. We need resources for folks. We need funding to move these things forward. And it's really a kind of take your own, help determine your own destiny. So if fish are going to drive our water resources like they are, and it's not just Sacramento River. I mean, a lot of you sitting in here are maybe on the American or on the Feather. Well, you know what the last 2 years has looked like. When we couldn't release water from the Sacramento River, it meant we're going to draw everything out of Feather. We're going to draw everything out of the American River. They didn't even know if they were going to run out of drinking water. So it's a Sacramento Valley-wide issue, just like the waterfowl. We all came together. We solved that problem. I encourage us to take this one on as well and do what we can do. So thank you very much.